What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. Before I get into the subject matter at hand, if you want to show love to this channel, if you want to show that you support Too Raw for TV, I'll put a link in the description box, and you can show love to this channel and donate to this channel if you want to. And also, fuck my haters. Let's talk about, I'm a little bit late to the dance, okay? Wasn't able to record for a couple of days. So let's get to this. Game one of the Eastern Conference Finals between the Milwaukee Bucks and the Toronto Raptors. And it was, if you're a Milwaukee Bucks fan, it was quite a cardiac experience. Because for the most part, you thought that your team was going to lose. Not a panic game, but a game that makes you concerned. Because in the prior series, that Milwaukee lost the first game in the semis to the Boston Celtics, although they went on to win 4 in a row. So both teams look pretty bad, with the exception of a couple of players. Kyle Lowry had possibly the best playoff game of his career, definitely by measures the best playoff game of this year. 30 points on 7 of 9 from beyond the arc. And I think he also had, 8 assists? Let me look at these numbers. 8 rebounds, excuse me. 8 rebounds. And, the irony of this situation is oftentimes people just have a gag reflex to say, well, Kyle Lowry got to step up. Kyle Lowry has to step up. And the irony is Kyle Lowry was the one that stepped up, even when nobody else stepped up. I think there's a statistic that says that outside of Kyle Lowry in the fourth quarter, his teammates went 0 of 15 from the field. So the irony was everybody except for Kyle Lowry needed to step up in the fourth quarter in order to get the win, and they didn't do it. And I know other people have said this. I know 7-8 said this in his video earlier. If you expect Kyle Lowry to score 30 points per game and shoot 7 of 9 from beyond the arc for the rest of the series, then you're going to be sadly mistaken. All right? He's not Steph Curry. He's not Ray Allen. He's not Reggie Miller. He's more along the lines of Antoine Walker from beyond the arc. He can hit him from time to time. He can be somewhat consistent, but more often than not, he's streaky. But usually he's streaky in a bad way. So, Toronto had their best opportunity to win this game, and they blew it. All right, the final score was 108 to 100. Brook Lopez was huge for the Milwaukee Bucks, scoring 29 points, and I believe he scored 13 of his 29 points in the fourth quarter, and he also had 11 rebounds to go with that. Giannis did not have the best game of his career, but he still put up 24 points to go along with 14 rebounds and 6 assists. Chris Middleton, 11 points, but also had 11 rebounds. Eric Bledsoe, 9 points, 5 rebounds, but was not really a huge factor shooting the basketball. 0 of 6 from three-point range. Mirotic had 13 points, along with 6 rebounds. Ilyasova had 7 points on the bench. Brogdon had 15 points. George Hill did not score. And Conaway did not score. Like I said, Toronto should have won this game, man. Pau Gasol looked his age, only shot 2 of 11 from the field. Danny Green only had 6 points. Van Vliet, continues his playoff struggles. 1 of 4 from the field, 0 of 2 from three-point range. Pascal Siakam, who disappeared for the most part in Game 7 of the Eastern Conference semifinals against the Philadelphia 76ers, was determined not to disappear, but this time he just disappeared in his inefficiency. Scored 15 points, but had to take 20 shots to get those 15 points. And even Kawhi Leonard, even though he scored 31 points, had to take 26 shots to get him only 10 of 26 from the field. And this is the way to beat Toronto, is to make it as difficult as possible for Kawhi Leonard. He's going to get his numbers because he's a great player. But you try to have to make it as hard as possible for him to get his points. That's one of the reasons why I thought the Sixers was going to win that Game 7, was because Kawhi was so inefficient and he wasn't getting any help. I still kind of suspect if Kawhi had missed that buzzer beater, that Philly would win that game in overtime. I just thought that Kawhi's inefficiency and also the fatigue factor were going to start kicking in, and reality was going to hit. But that's to be debated because Leonard hit one of the great clutch shots in playoff history. Um, Interestingly enough, I don't know if anybody ever made this comparison, this point. Kawhi Leonard's shot, which won the series for the Raptors over the Sixers, is sort of the uh, polar opposite of Vince Carter's shot back in the 2001 Eastern Conference series between the Toronto Raptors and the Philadelphia 76ers. In that series, had Vince Carter's shot went in, I think the Raptors would have won by a point, I think. His turnaround fadeaway shot at the buzzer, I think it spun out or it was short or something like that. But the Raptors won that. The Raptors lost, I believe, in 7 games in that series, and Philly went on to play the Milwaukee Bucks in the conference finals. But I just thought it was interesting just to make that comparison. How Vince Carter's shot, had that went in, the Raptors would have went on to play the Milwaukee Bucks. Maybe history would have been different. But anyway, Kawhi Leonard erased the ghost of Vince Carter missed shot pass. I guess is what I'm trying to say. But I think the fatigue factor, and I know other people have been saying this, and I did mention this earlier. Nick Nurse may need to open up his rotation a little bit, man. I remember mentioning about maybe getting some other guys involved as far as in his rotation. You got to remember, Kawhi Leonard only played in like 60 games this year. I think 62 games or something like that. So while it is, you can make the point that, okay, well, then he should be fresh. Yeah, but you can also make the point that if you're playing a game or two and then you rest 2 games, or you play 2 games and you rest, then your legs may not be as used to playing consistently over a long stretch of time and playing heavy minutes over a stretch of time. You know what I mean? It can work both ways. Um, like, for instance, when Michael Jordan came out of retirement in 95, he only played 17 games of regular season, but he played um, consistently. Those 17 games, he came in as a starter, and he played, I believe it was 10 playoff games or something like that, right? But he got better as far as his accuracy from the field uh, later in that season going to the playoffs. Early on, you could tell that his legs just weren't under him, and he got better. And he really didn't get his legs under him until probably sometime into the 95-96 season. But still, the point is, no matter how you want to look at it, Kawhi Leonard is starting to show fatigue. He's taken a lot of shots. He's never been a high volume scorer. He's always been an efficient scorer. He hasn't had a 50-point game in his career. He's not used to taking this many shots and having this much responsibility on him to carry a franchise. You know what I'm saying? He's used to playing in the Greg Popovich system. And I think Nick Nurse is kind of overextending him. That's one of the reasons why I also made that point in that video I made about the Game 7 performance by Kawhi. I said it reminded me of the late 90s Bulls. That 98 Bulls team was probably the weakest Bulls team of that era. And they had to rely on Michael a lot. It was the weakest bench, I think, of any of those Bulls teams. And of course, Scotty was older. Scotty was kind of banged up. His back issues were getting worse. And more of the burden was put on Michael that year. And he wasn't his self. He was less efficient that year than any other year he played in the NBA, aside from his Wizards years. And it just reminded me of, I remember there were so many games where he had to take so many shots to get his points. And you could tell by the Utah series that he was just, he was on fumes. And that's why I kind of made that point too. It wasn't necessarily I was just trying to praise Kawhi and compare him to Jordan, even though that is a nice comparison. But I also was trying to say that Kawhi is, there's too much. They're relying too much on him, and other people are going to have to step up. If Toronto Raptors going to have any shot of winning this series, they're going to need other people, and not this time just Kyle Lowry. Okay, you're going to have Pascal Siakam. You're the guy everybody kept saying, you're the shoo-in for most improved player. Well, you've had a phenomenal regular season, and for the most part, aside from the last half of the last series, you've been very good. But for some reason or other, you've been in a funk. I don't know whether your confidence is shot right now, but you need to step up offensively. Other guys have to step up, and like I said, Nick Nurse might need to open up his rotation and put some other guys in the rotation and relieve some of the burden off some of the other guys, because some of these guys aren't that young. Like Marc Gasol is not that young. What is he, like 30? If Powell is pushing 40, Mark has to be 35, 36. You know what I'm saying? He's not that young himself. All right. So that's the thing for the Toronto Raptors. The Milwaukee Bucks, they just got knocked down shots that they normally make, and they'll be fine. I think this series is going to be somewhat more competitive than the Western Conference series, but I got the Bucks winning this in probably 6. I'd say 6. Maybe I'll be surprised. Maybe the league might want to compensate for the sweep in the West, and maybe they're going to push this series as far as possible to get every fucking dime out of you fucking game goers and us TV viewers and every fucking penny. So they might figure some way to push this to 7. But I still think the Bucks are going to win this series. Tell me what you guys think.